They thought humanity had forgotten how to make war. 3,000 years of peace does that to a species. Makes them soft, predictable. Makes others bold. The Galactic Empire was vast, cold, logical. It believed peace was only maintained through fear, and humanity had none left. Not after retreating to their home systems, turning inward, building art and philosophy instead of fleets and weapons. But humans remembered. They remembered everything. And when the Empire took the children, 27 in total, from the Terran colony of Lysium 4, they learned exactly what kind of memory the human race carried. It began with silence. No distress beacon. No wreckage. Just an empty classroom. A single surveillance drone, glitching in low orbit, recorded a ship of unknown origin bypassing planetary defenses like they weren't there. The children were gone in minutes. The Empire never claimed responsibility. Not officially. But they left clues. On purpose. They wanted to see what humanity would do. If the stories were true. If the fire was still there. They found out. Fast. Admiral Ren Vashti was the first to speak at the summit of the Federated Systems. Her words were not elegant. We ask for nothing. We demand nothing. We do not plead. You took our children. And now you will understand the cost of that mistake. The Empire didn't respond. They didn't think humanity had the numbers, the weapons, the nerve. But they didn't realize what had been hidden, what had been waiting. Beneath the surface of Mars, in vaults older than most living species, ancient war factories ignited for the first time in millennia. AI fleets that hadn't received orders in 3,000 years blinked online. Titans, walking mechs the size of buildings, were released from cryolock, still bearing the names of Earth's last wars. And one by one, old warriors came out of retirement. They weren't young. They weren't many. But they were human. And that was enough. The first counterstrike hit a supply line on the edge of the Orion Corridor. A Terran stealth ship, long-range, black-hulled, crewed by only 7 operators, hijacked an Imperial transport. They didn't destroy it. They took control, rewrote its transponder, and flew it straight into an Imperial archive station in orbit over Calshur. When the station didn't respond, a rescue ship was dispatched. What it found was silence, corpses, and one message carved into the control console. You took ours. Now we take yours. The children, meanwhile, were alive. For now. Kept in stasis chambers aboard a deep space Imperial facility built into the crust of a rogue planet. The Empire didn't want to harm them. Not yet. They wanted leverage. They wanted fear. But children are clever. And one of them, a 12-year-old girl named Eva Vance, had smuggled something into the stasis field, a tracking module no bigger than a fingernail. Her father, back on Earth, was a systems engineer for Terran Black Ops. When her signal blinked through the noise of the stars, it was faint. But it was enough. Eva Vance's signal reached a listening post buried in the asteroid belt around Neptune. Most would have ignored it. The Empire jammed frequencies like that. It could have been noise. But not for Dr. Marin Vance. She didn't hesitate. She activated Protocol Aegis, an emergency cascade that unlocked humanity's most guarded secrets. In under an hour, 7 black site operation centers lit up across Terran space. AI defense systems, once forbidden by Galactic Treaty, woke up screaming. Every nation, every faction, every political divide vanished in that moment. They had taken children. There would be no negotiation. Only war. The Empire's first sign of trouble came when a mining moon disappeared. Not attacked. Gone. When they sent a scouting vessel, they found the moon's core ripped out and its orbit destabilized. Floating in the vacuum was a drone with one message. Return them, or we erase the next. They laughed. Until the second moon vanished. Then the third. In the far reaches of unclaimed space, a group of humans boarded an ancient dreadnought buried in a gas giant's pressure layers. It was older than any civilization still standing, designed for extinction-level warfare. Captain Isaac Thorne had fought in the last war before the Long Peace. He was 87, scarred, half metal. He stood in the bridge of the dreadnought and looked at the stars like he'd never left. "They thought we forgot," he growled. "Let's remind them." 3 weeks later, the first official human fleet entered Imperial space. They didn't announce themselves. They simply bypassed the border defenses using wormholes the Empire didn't know existed. No one expected humans to still possess them. But humanity never discarded its sharpest blades. It just hid them. The rescue team was called Sable 9. No insignia. No broadcast ID. Just a name whispered among black site generals and assassins. 7 operatives. Each had survived wars that shouldn't have been winnable. Each had lost something to the Empire. And now, they were getting it back. Sable 9 inserted through a gravity slingshot around a neutron star, shot through a veil of Imperial sensor netting, and landed on the rogue planet's surface using anti-grav suits that didn't exist in any known blueprint. Inside, they found corridors pulsing with Imperial biotech. Walls breathing. Lights reacting to thought. It wasn't a prison. It was a lab. The children weren't just hostages. They were subjects. 3 of the children were already gone. Drained. Changed. The Empire wasn't studying them. They were trying to weaponize them. When the operatives found the main chamber, they didn't ask questions. They opened fire. The walls melted. The alarms screamed. And then something screamed back. What came through the walls wasn't Imperial. It was something older. Wearing Imperial colors, yes, but not born of them. A creature of shadow and metal. All sharp edges and flowing void. It looked at the humans and laughed without a mouth. "You shouldn't have come," it hissed. And then it attacked. The fight was brutal. The operatives weren't normal soldiers, they were enhanced. Augmented. Genetically modified over decades for survivability and kill speed. But the thing kept adapting. Shotguns didn't work. Plasma slowed it. Fire blinded it. Until Agent Neru, silent and always watching, threw a strange orb into its core. The creature paused, confused. Then it froze. She whispered, "Human tech, bastard. You're not the only ones who experiment." And she ended it. The kids were rescued. Barely. 2 had to be revived mid-flight. 1 had aged 5 years in stasis. But they were alive. Sable 9 left a single message carved into the wall of the ruined base. "Try that again. And we won't stop at your moons." But the Empire didn't back down. They retaliated. They sent fleets. They demanded surrender. They offered diplomacy. They threatened genocide. So humanity answered. By breaking the oldest law they'd made. The Peace Accord of Orion Prime. Signed 3,000 years ago. Held by blood and silence. They tore it apart on live broadcast. And then the real war began. The Empire wasn't ready. They had fleets, massive, polished, and slow. Glorious formations meant for intimidation, not survival. Humanity didn't fight that way. They struck like ghosts. Whole sectors vanished. Communications blacked out. Patrols turned to wreckage drifting in silence. The Empire had numbers. Humans had rage. And rage didn't follow rules. At the edge of the galaxy, an Imperial dreadnought, the Vaktar Ascendant, stopped transmitting. It was the 3rd such ship to go dark in a week. When the 4th disappeared, the Emperor finally spoke. He stood before his council of warlords, 12 beings, each centuries old, each responsible for a different quadrant of the stars, and for the first time in millennia, his voice trembled. "They are not like us," he said. "They are not restrained." Humanity's fleet wasn't unified by command. It was unified by loss. Colonists, engineers, scholars, even artists, those who'd never seen a battlefield were now building weapons faster than any empire could track. They repurposed terraforming engines into cannons. They turned mining rigs into assault ships. No one told them what to do. No one needed to. They all remembered the children. The Empire finally tried to fight back properly. They attacked the Mars orbital yards, humanity's oldest military structure. They expected a graveyard. What they found was a trap. The orbital defense AI, Thalos, had been dormant for centuries. No one had dared activate it since the peace accords. But now it roared to life. Thousands of orbital weapons rotated in sync. A single human voice echoed through the system. "We're awake now." The battle lasted 11 minutes. Not because it was short, but because that's how long it took to erase an entire Imperial fleet. Meanwhile, Sable 9 was deep in Imperial territory again. This time, not for rescue, but for proof. Inside the heart of the Empire, they found files, evidence that the abduction wasn't an isolated act. The Empire had taken human children before. 4 centuries. Quietly. Selectively. Experimentally. Always under the veil of peace. And humanity had never known. Until now. The operatives didn't send the intel to a government. They broadcast it to everyone. The galactic networks lit up in fire and fury. Races that had feared the Empire for generations now questioned everything. Some rebelled. Some surrendered to humanity, begging for alliance. Others tried to hide. It didn't matter. Because Earth wasn't stopping. Admiral Vashti gave her final order from the deck of the Terran juggernaut, Stoneborn. Send the message. It was simple, short, transmitted on every frequency. You broke the peace. We broke the sky. And with that, Earth did the unthinkable. They launched the Titans. Titans were myths. Human-made war machines the size of cities. No other race had ever built or survived them. Built during the last Great War, then buried and locked beneath failsafes. Until now. They rose from Earth, Mars, Europa, and deep space stations. 5 in total. Each named after something lost. Each designed to end wars, not fight them. When the first Titan entered Imperial space, it didn't fire a weapon. It simply broadcast a message to the capital. Surrender. Or vanish. The Empire fired everything they had. It didn't even scratch the armor. The Titan codenamed Remembrance walked through the void like it was atmosphere. Carved from neutron alloy, its joints made no sound, but the sight of it, 2 kilometers tall, glowing red lines tracing ancient human script down its arms, was enough to make entire fleets retreat. It didn't fire a single shot on its way to the Imperial capital. It didn't need to. Ahead of it, every ship in its path turned away. Not out of fear. Out of respect. The Titan carried more than weapons. It carried the burial markers of the abducted children. On the surface of the Imperial homeworld, millions watched from their spires, unsure what to believe. They had been taught that humans were primitive, ruled by emotion, undisciplined. But the sky cracked open above them, and Remembrance descended in silence, its massive feet not crushing the city, but standing beside it, eyes glowing. A broadcast echoed across every street, every screen, every frequency. Return what was taken. Stand down. Or your empire ends today. The Emperor appeared, shaking, his robe scorched from the recent assassination attempt by his own generals. He stepped forward into the light of the Titan and said just 2 words. I surrender. Humanity didn't cheer. There was no celebration. Only a quiet message sent to every corner of the galaxy. War is not who we are. But we remember how. And then Earth did something no one expected. They left. They didn't conquer the Empire. They didn't raise a flag. They liberated the children, burned the research labs to the ground, and took nothing but their own. The Titans were recalled. The fleets returned. The galaxy watched as humanity, capable of unparalleled vengeance, chose discipline instead of domination. And that terrified them more than anything else. Eva Vance stood on the observation deck of the hospital ship Soul's Light, her tiny fingers resting against the glass, watching the stars move again. Captain Thorne visited her, still in uniform. You all right, kid? She nodded. They tried to change us. They failed. He smiled. They always do. On Earth, monuments were built, not for the warriors, but for the children. And under each name etched in stone, a single word glowed in every known language. Never again. Across the stars, new alliances were formed. Species that once mocked Earth now studied its history with reverence. Peace reigned, but this time it was earned, not imposed. Because now everyone knew. If you touch the innocent, humanity will come. And they will not come with mercy.